I appreciate everyone being here. Elliot, good to see you. He's my neighbor. It's pretty great to have my neighbor here. And let's see here. Who knows what the topic? Why did you come? What was the title of this presentation? Anyone?
I can tell you.
Please tell me.
Because I asked her what are you going to talk about, and she said things that grow at high altitude, and we have a problem with voles, so I was going to ask you about that.
Right. Dr. Voles, talk to me about voles. To paraphrase, it was high altitude gardening, really. And I will fill in the blank that this is gardening judo. This is your superpower. And I think we're all able to garden if we're willing to get in there and get our hands dirty and embrace this opportunity for observation and awareness. We're willing to adapt and eventually kind of attack our garden. So I'm just gonna get into this whole thing, and that's a matter of, I was called a lecturer, but really I'm more of a let's do this together, group interactive approach. And so the first thing I'd like to do is talk to us a little bit about our smile. And so a smile is often unconscious, and it is something that evokes either pleasure or enjoyment or this positive energy. And so right now I want everyone to smile as bright as you can. Just nice, thank you very much, good. And the smile has a profound impact on our energy and our emotions, and I know when I wake up with my frown on, it just kind of carries me poorly. But if I can be a little bit more opportunistic and throw a smile on there, it helps for everything. And in fact, when I talk to people on the phone, I try to put a smile on before I do so. It just helps the energy all the way along. So the good chemicals that comes with smiling, and I'm tying this to gardening. Why are we doing all of this? So it makes us feel good, it boosts our creativity, and creates a positive energy loop. And I think that's pretty important. So hey, I was introduced, but I'll share again. I'm Dan Schroder. I'm the Colorado State University Extension Director here in Summit County. And what that means is I get to work with the public. I get to work with you all. I'm an outreach educator. For about a decade, I worked at Keystone Science School, and now I'm longer than that in this role here in Summit. And so if you did or didn't know, Colorado State University has this field-based department called Extension. And there's one of me, at least, in every county, all 64 counties in the state of Colorado. And in fact, the state university in every state in our nation has this field-based department called Extension. And that was in the agrarian society of the past, taking the research that was learned at the university and disseminating it to the hinterland. And so it's through the Extension offices. These days, we're less agrarian. And so I am here on behalf of the Summit County Commissioners, and I was hired on mountain pine beetle back in 2010. So in this county, the issue of importance is forestry. Ultimately these days, I'm very much in the wildfire arena. My colleagues way out on the eastern slope are probably into things like, well, everything ag that you could consider. So here we are, and on that note, I would like to bring up a public service announcement regarding wildfire. We just went into a stage 1 fire ban, and that's important for you all to know, which there are a number of factors that come into play, and are you allowed to have a fire at all? And I'm just gonna say, don't do it. Let's just not have fires. There is something about fire, though, that is what I like to think of as good fire and bad fire. Anyone have a good fire suggestion for me? Home? Yeah, inside the house. So utilitarian, we can warm our homes with fire. Has anyone had a birthday recently? Right, we celebrate with fire. A candle on a cake is really a wonderful thing. And then, bad fires burn communities down. Wildfire. And so I am the administrator of Summit County's Wildfire Council, and we meet 8 times a year, and we talk about things that we can do to help protect the community at large. And I'm going to bring this back around in a minute, or a little later in the talk, but this is on you. Every one of us need to participate in this conversation. So back away from the public service announcement slightly, I'm going to stay with the microphone. I'm going to ask everyone to take a flyer at the end of the conversation here. And it's an outline of what I'm going to talk about. And on the back side is some information about wildfire prevention. And this QR code leads us to Colorado State University's Green School. And so if you want to go further deeper about your understanding of, well, horticulture in general, low water native plants, the information's all there. So thanks for your willingness to take that away with you when we're done. I am going to jump into the theme of the day, and that is that we are all Joduka. And the Joduka is a Judo practitioner. And Judo is in Japanese, the gentle way. So how do we approach our gardens? In the historic way, we could have a single jack, that's that sledgehammer, and the big rod, and we could just, bam! Is that powerful, forceful approach a good way to go in the garden? I'm gonna propose not. You know, you can just kind of kick your plants and throw rocks and get angry and frustrated when things aren't going your way, or we can step back and breathe. And so I wanted to know, gardening being deeply enriching, and it can provide a whole lot for our soul. What are some things that gardening does for you? Anyone? By the way, I'm just going to remind that this is an interactive conversation here today. Yes, thank you.
It helps you feel purposeful.
Oh. And if we didn't hear it, helps me feel purposeful. Any other thoughts? What does gardening do for you? Can everybody just relax for a minute? Just take a breath. We're in our gardens and it just settles. How about mental health? That's a huge topic. We have desensitized ourselves. No, we haven't. We have made this conversation of mental health an open one, and gardening can help get to that. You were going to say something.
I just love to look out in my backyard, and I just love to have the windows open so I can smell the flowers, and I can look at how beautiful the God has to see.
Man, if I could paraphrase for everyone, it's looking out the window and smelling the garden and the general feeling that it brings your way. Agreed. I agree. We have some agreement throughout the audience here as well. I mean, things like stress and anxiety and mood, gardens can fight depression and encourage the calm that you're talking about. How about our physical health? I mean, some people might like to do the summit style and go running up mountains and mountain biking for 4,000 miles in a single go. Or we can settle into our gardens. This low intensity activity is indeed recreational and good for your physical health. It can help enhance and focus memory, spark creativity. If you're gardening with anyone else, it's a social connection. And there are a number of community gardens throughout Summit County that are open for you to join. They're community supported agriculture. So that's a Breckenridge Community Garden near CMC in Breckenridge. There's community supported agriculture near Whole Foods here on the other side of Frisco. And Sylvana's Garden is in Silverthorne. This is another place where you can get a plot and go forward. And that's community, and that's a social activity. You can also go it alone. I like to just kind of chill like we've already talked about. But socialization, it helps cognitive benefits, gardening in general, memory and creativity. I went through that. And the practical rewards that come out of gardening, food, aesthetics, environmental. You can encourage pollinators. All of these things are really, really good for our gardens. So hey, what can you grow? What do we grow around here? If you're already growing, if you already have a backyard garden, what's working so we can learn from each other?
Daisies.
Daisies. Anyone? Columbine have just really burst across. Lupine, its pronunciation. On that note, the native lupine tend to be, well, natives in general are really dainty, and they can be outcompeted for nutrients and water and all the rest. So we need to keep that in mind. But what I was going to say is I have a number of lupin in my yard that are, they're not native. And so they're volunteers, actually. They've come about on their own, and they're monstrous. They've got these big purple heads and big spreading fingers on their leaves. And I've got some confirmation around. I went about waking up my garden this season with my, well, it's farther, my spade shovel. And I had to really get to it because we don't have amazing soil around here. There's my hoe. That was part of the effort as well. Yeah. Let's see here. So I'm going crazy in my garden, and I'm looking at these lupin, and I really like them. Bright, showy, purple sprouts, these spires, and I went ahead and did a test. And the experiment was to see how deep those roots went. And the roots on that guy were deep and spreading. And at one point, I actually chopped a part of my aspen root because it trailed me into that direction, and I wasn't sure what was happening. These roots were going on and on. And so those will outcompete the natives, certainly. And choose what you like. You're not here under some auspice or premise that you have to have a native garden or a certain way to keep our water resources on our minds and all the rest, and that's coming. But I like those guys. They're really bright and showy, and pollinators do come to them. So I left a few. Yeah, I mean, that's my prerogative. It's my garden. So please, I invite you to leave a few as well, or take this whichever direction you choose. And so there are two goals that there are two premises that I'll pass your way, and that's really the goal, first of all, with your garden, or if you're contemplating putting in a garden, and that is the big picture, the aspirational approach. And so what would you like to see? Anyone have an example or something that they would like to see, what you would like to see in your own garden?
Colorful flowers.
Color, yes, color. I would like to see pollinators, and the bees are pretty nice. So that's good. I'll throw out maybe I would like to become more comfortable in my garden. And another aspirational thought from my side of things that's going to make all of us smile is I want my garden to look like Disneyland. Who wouldn't like that? They have professional horticulturalists, so they can make it happen. I'm going to try to make it happen too. What the heck? I mean, there's no lines here. We're not coloring within the lines. In fact, I promote taking down the lines and coloring whichever direction it takes you. So, how about the objective? So we've got this aspirational side of things. That's the goal. And our objective is something measurable. And so what's something measurable that any of us can do?
Get rid of the dandelions.
Specific. Get rid of the dandelions. I love it. False chamomile. Some of these non-natives that are really problematic. Get after it. So my specific and measurable objective is that every week I'm going to drive around Summit County and I'm going to find one new garden. And this is likely a private home garden. It's on the street side. I'm not going onto anyone's private properties. So I've seen a few recently, and that's what struck me in this point is there are some amazing gardens going on around there. So another objective, measurable, actionable, is that I'm going to find a plant ID app. And I'm going to, maybe in one of these gardens or anywhere, zoom in on something new that I haven't seen before and teach myself. I'm going to learn a new flower every week. Goals, objectives. And I'm saying these things for you all to maybe put in your pocket and take away. And that's the whole notion of this talk today, is that you might take a tidbit or two and put them to use. And you might already know a lot of these things, and that's okay. Hopefully this is reinforcement. So gardening judo. Judo in general. There are 4 tenets. They're the primary tenets. In martial arts, there are many, many throughout. But the 4 tenets are to assume a neutral stance, to take a defensive posture, to attack, and to throw. So if I can step these into our gardening arena, the neutral position is observation and awareness. So if we could all join me with a body motion, because this is in general, I'm going to have you just take the neutral stance, put your arms by your side, and lighten your eyelids, and breathe 3 times while you smile. We're going to keep smiling. We're gardening. This is good. That's our neutral stance. We're observing and we're aware. So the things that we can observe are sun. Sun is one of the things that come into our garden. And of course, there it is. We know every day, photosynthesis, we need the sun. But are we in a shady spot? Are we in direct sun? Is this kind of a mix? Is it just full-blown shade? So these are things to consider in the neutral position we're observing. And how about our soils? Generally, in the mountains, we are on a granitic till. There isn't a whole lot of nutrient within the soil that we start with. But we look out here on the garden, on the grass, it's been augmented for sure. Soil has been brought in, compost, the nutrient load goes up, we can handle Kentucky bluegrass or whatever this species is. The same in your own gardens. Thinking of adapting to the environment that you have is what we're striving for. Water. Do you have any water? Do you have water rights? Are you on a well? Do you have snow? And which way, when the snow melts, is it going to go? This is gravity. How do you plan to use the water that's at hand to your benefit? And then finally, wind. Are you on a ridge? Are you in a high spot? Are you in a wind eddy? We've all heard of an eddy in the river. Think of those when we're kayaking or canoeing, or if anyone's ever gone rafting or just heard of it. An eddy will loop us around into slow water. If you did or didn't know, there's a wind eddy phenomenon that occurs as well. And I'll throw us to the biggest, and that's the Sand Dunes National Monument. It's a monument. And park. It's a national park. Thank you. And there is all that sand. Well, it was lifted elsewhere, and it followed on thermal currents, and an eddy loaded that zone where the sand dunes sit. How'd the sand get there? Aerial. So here's another wind tunnel item to think about, and that's my wildfire side. I'm going to keep injecting this because this is a pretty big part of my role. It is the canyon, 10-mile canyon from Copper to Frisco. That is a horizontal wind tunnel, and it's a horizontal zone for fire to blow. We would call it a horizontal chimney. Just things to think about. We're in our neutral stance and we're doing all this observation. In the fire world, we think about that. How do we manage or mitigate? So, are there any macroclimates or microclimates that come to mind in your world? Just putting that in your pocket, putting that in the question mark. So some neutral plants. Oh, and by the way, on these flyers I'm inviting you to take at the end, there's a list of plants that could work here for us. Natives, annuals, perennials. I don't have it listed on things we can grow as far as food. All the lettuces and carrots and these kinds of things, but we'll get to that in just a few. Some of the neutral plants could include fringed sage. That's real silvery and it smells real well. Pasque flower, come up native after the snow melts. That's one of the early bloomers. And fescue or stonecrop, early bloomers, long season. And the colors in easy to grow plants are pansies and snapdragons, maybe petunias. And where are you going to get these plants? I'll leave that to you. There are many outlets that you can go to acquire plants. So now we're going to move into the defensive pose. And the defensive is the adaptation. And so we talked about observation and awareness. And now in the defensive pose, I'd love for you to put your arms out. Just put them out. You're blocking. Your chin is up and you're smiling. We're going to keep smiling all morning because it feels good and it's contagious, like a yawn. But we don't need to yawn right now, I hope. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're slightly engaging. So this adaptation is a matter of evoking the energy that's around you. How can you work with it's already existing, or how can you bring something new into the environment? And we need to adapt to a few of the conditions that are here. Drought. Now drought, that's interesting. Weather, real quick, is what we see when we look out the window. Weather is that daily occurrence, or it's kind of a snapshot in time. And drought is over a long period of time. And we get a little confused sometimes when we think about the snowpack, or I just came off of a really good ski season. So we must be good. We're not in a drought. We had snow. There's still some snow up high. Well, it is soil moisture that we can think about, and the strata of soil, and is it wet? Is it moist through to a certain number of feet or inches or not? And what is the aerial condition? Is our air humid, or is it a little more on the dry side of things? And I'll just answer the questions. We are in a drought. We've been in a multi-decade drought Even though we get slammed with rain here and there, the soil strata remains dry. Our forests are green. They're primarily evergreen, conifers, and you look at them and they're green. And well, they're not doing very well, even though they look like they might be. A couple things real quick. We're in a historic park. About 100 years ago, easy loose number, the miners were here and they cut down a lot of the trees. We can see the historic photos. Our landscapes are devoid of trees. Lodgepole pine are self-seeders, and they come back really in a robust manner, kind of as a carpet, high density, and they're what we see along the hillsides, primarily. Spruce and fir there as well. Lodgepole are, as a dense species, growing up in a stressed state most of their lives, and they grow to be about 100 years old. We're at end of life cycle without a whole lot of species diversity. We're in an arid environment. The soil strata is pretty dry. Our trees are green. We think everything's great, but it's in a new scenario, things that we haven't necessarily considered. So drought. What plants can we pick that might be drought tolerant? That's really where we're leading with all of this. And so that might be a yarrow. Yarrow is a white. It's got a nice umbel head, and it's pretty well drought tolerant. We can use some short season fast bloomers that would address this drought scenario. Columbine, we talked about that. Everyone's excited about, who doesn't love a columbine? Larkspur is another one that's somewhat like the lupin. Larkspur actually, well, monkshood is what came to mind. The flowers have their own tendencies and the way that they present, and so larkspur is its own guy. And some other conditions in this defensive posture is wildlife pressure. Talked about, well, critters that might be attacking, and their management strategies, what we call it, mitigation. How do we deal with the critters? But that's pressure. And as far as plants go, what would you pick to address wildlife pressure? The ones that don't taste good. That's really what it comes to. And I don't have a list of plants in that arena. Kind of depends on what your creature is and what you have, but less tasty species. How about heavy snow? Snow is a great insulator. So what plants might be plants that head into dormancy? And those would be plants that you could put in those snow-loaded sides of your house. Back to that eddy current. Snow will deposit in a more robust manner in certain parts of your home. Or on aspects. Didn't throw that out back with sun, but aspect is, are we facing south, east? Is it north? I often think when it comes to north, and here comes the 4th of July, our Independence Day. If you look at the 10-mile range that begins right here in Frisco with peak 1, and it concludes at peak 10, not really, it continues south further. Peak 10 itself has this bowl that we call the 4th of July bowl, and it holds snow longest because it's north facing. And you know that already. Oh yeah, it's a good place to ski. That's the idea for the July Bowl, ski on that day, but that's a matter of aspect. And then wind is another component that we need to address or be aware of in our defensive posture. And we kind of went into wind just a little bit a minute ago. Shrubs, things that can withstand wind, are those species that you might choose to plant if that's a condition that you have. Serviceberry, woods rose, shrubby cinquefoil. These are shrubs that you'll see out there. Your Plant ID app might help you zoom in on those guys. And things that we can work with. Deer resistancy is a marigold. Pollinator-friendly plants are salvia and geranium. So are there any other issues that didn't come up in this little component of our gardening judo that you'd share with the rest of us? And that's okay. I mean, we're covering a lot of territory here. Oh, goodness.
I mean, some of us start working and have much more time.
Right.
Other of us are. And if we have 40 hours a week at a job,
Sure.
our ability to take care of our family is different.
I sometimes put myself in that middle arena of the demographic that's here, and that's I have my main job, I have a side job, I'm a dad and a husband, and I like to walk my dog a little and take a little time out for me, and that could be my garden time, and I like to ride my mountain bike. So that's my bucket of time starts to diminish pretty quickly, and how much time do I have for my garden? And it's not that I don't have time, or any of us. We often say how busy we are, I don't have enough time. It's actually how much emphasis you put to the time that you have. So I could set aside mountain biking and spend more time in my garden if that's my prerogative. I'll leave that to everyone else. But it's a matter of how much time do you have to spend in your space. And that could be another consideration. So now we're going to move to the third phase of our judo tenets, and that's the attack. And so we were neutral, and then we were observing, and now we're going to attack our opponent. And not really it's an opponent. The gardenscape is we're going to design with intention. And so that's the premise we're heading toward. So we're going to do another group exercise, and this is that attack. So we're going to push our arms straight forward, chest out high, tip your head back, and take a few deep breaths and smile. Nice. The smile turned from the shared energy into outright laughter. I think that's wonderful. So here we are. We're designing with intention. Does anyone know what hydrozoning is? Hydrozoning is taking the, similar plants with the same water needs. Pardon me, not similar plants. Plants that have similar water needs. So you're going to put them in a portion of your garden that might be ones that are in a watery scape. So hydrozoning, I don't need to get into more definition about that. Think about plants and their water needs and group them accordingly. Bloom sequencing. Can anyone just think about what bloom sequencing might be? How often when they bloom? You're smiling, you got this idea. We all talked early on about color. I just love color. And I'm not going to say this environment is colorless, especially now, but it becomes pretty white. We have that big white reservoir. They've often called it that. We've got Dillon Reservoir. The snowpack really fills all of the Colorado River all the way down eventually. And side note, we are at the top of the headwaters of the nation. That's unbelievable. So, but color is really what we're getting at right now. Bloom sequencing is, could you have color staggering throughout the season until the fall when the growing ends and we move into our next of the two seasons. Sorry, I'm just, it's winter and summer, or that's that section where we're growing things. And so next is layering. Layering is creating a canopy to a moderate zone and ground cover. And we can think of that in the rainforest. I can go straight to that big visual that we can all take on. And now let's downsize it and right-size it to our backyards, to our planted scape. And so what might be higher, what might be shade tolerant or more interested in shade plant-wise? What's a nice ground cover that you can come up with? That's layering. And finally, in this attack, we're not attacking, we're designing with intention, and that is pollinator gardens. So what plants might you come up with that could handle this environment that would attract pollinators? That could be another package that you focus on. Nice. Designing with intention. Some of the plants that may fall into this space, yarrow was brought up before, that fills in some space, plenty. Penstemon and flax, coneflower. So I'm throwing out some natives. There are non-natives as well. And as much as we like to keep alien non-natives, that would be the weeds, at bay, like that lupin I talked about early on in this section, you can keep non-natives. It's your space. You can make it work how you like. It'd be nice if they don't overflow and seed out in a poor or undesirable manner. Just something to keep in mind. And then some other ones would be zinnia. It's a pretty well long blooming plant. A cosmos is airy and colorful. And nasturtium, I didn't pronounce that right. Nasturtium, thank you. Sun or part shade, they do pretty well here in Summit County. So there's the attack. So in judo, your color and your rhythm is your pollinator power. And so we can take these four tenets and we can think that we're not just planting, but we're performing a move. You're martial artists in your gardens, and the moves that you make are they're the results that you will end up with. And in the horticulture, Colorado State University Master Gardener side of things, there's this overarching answer. And the answer to whatever question you throw out there in this arena is, it depends. So I'm just going to ask you a question. Now give me that response. It depends. Everything we've talked about, microclimates, soil type, water availability, and our altitude. That's something interesting. Above 9,000 feet, and Silverthorne's 8,800 or something, but there's our package, 9,000 and beyond, there aren't very many civilizations at this altitude. We can go to a couple of other places around the globe, so getting to that, we don't have a whole lot of trials or testing that's occurred to understand what plants really do well here. Trial and error. It depends. So pick it out and see what happens. And then share your info. If you have other gardening people, back to that beginning of your objective, something measurable, maybe you are driving around the county looking for those gardens where things are working. That's an important thing to do too, because those folks have probably already done the pseudo trial. And that's something to keep in mind. So what are your favorite colors? Anybody? Blue? Purple? Come on! Yeah! Fantastic! Greens and yellows, the spectrum. Go find those colors and see if they work. Bring them into your garden and maybe it'll work. And if it does, move forward. Stay that course. You'll know what that species is, so then maybe you pick a few more of that species or within that family. So in Latin, we've got all these breakdowns, and there's a family that I really like to say, and it's Equisetaceae, horse, Equisetaceae. So back to that, identify things you haven't found before. I recently went on a walk to Rainbow Lake. Equisetaceae is an ancient plant. It's somewhat like bamboo, that it's perforated. And these sections, and it's little, and it could be sort of throwing off some flowers, but it is from the dinosaur age. It's an ancient plant that remains today. And I love it when I find it in wetland environments mostly. And so some things are really going crazy right now up towards Rainbow Lake. I say that specific location because here we are in Frisco, Zach Stop, 2nd Street, parking area. Take a walk later today if you have time, or any time, because it's really beautiful up there. And find the plant that you love so much. And maybe find that Latin name that goes with it. And make yourself smile when you can't say it anymore. All right. So now you're gardening judo practitioners. There is this last stage if you are a 4th Dan judo master, and that 4th stage is mastery. And I think each of us can strive to that, but it's elusive. I'm not going to really propose that any of us actually reach that stage, which is better. We don't really want to be at nirvana because that's the end of the road. Let's keep moving forward in our learning, and don't strive to be a master. Just strive to enjoy yourself. Garden is your space. And so I wanted to ask if there's a specific tool anyone loves the most. What tool?
Weed eater.
No.
Nice. Yeah, right.
If you got a garden, you got to have a shovel because it's all rock in this country, and I mean that's not easy. The garden.
I'm gonna-
I think of soil. As
Yes.
the most important element.
Yes.
You can't get the soil if you can't get the rock out.
You gotta get the rocks out. I put in a fence not too long ago, and immediately there's the bedrock.
Break
And
that
it's-
all every time. You
break it off every time. I actually use my hands. Once I got a hole going, I was pulling rocks anyway.
Oh.
So, any other shovel, the spade shovel, that's a good tool. Anything? Oh, yeah. It's a little claw.
Rototiller.
Right, so you're getting down low. You might be on your knees with that tool. And, well, yeah, thank you very much. Except for he's got a bad back, so he's going to be up here doing the shovel style.
The blade off.
Yeah, right. So here we are back into the historic park. I'm trying to throw in a little history here. My wife reminded me last night, she's been floating around here with our dog. Maybe she can hear me, but that's okay. She said, The more things change, the more they stay the same. And that's not a new premise. I went and saw a historian in Breckenridge to gather a few of his tools. So this spade shovel is in that 100-year-old category. This was being used by our predecessors. Do we use shovels very similar to this one today? It's the same thing. Yeah, so they could just kind of keep reselling us the same package. But that's pretty interesting to me. What about this one's interesting? I don't know. So, and prior to that, and this probably isn't as old, this was an ice pick. This was a chopper. And then that industrious individual decided that it needed to be made into a hoe. So we can modify. This is adaptation. This is back into our mastery under our judo practices. Take something that you have, and if you have a need, think about how you might address that. Maybe without spending any money, because that's nice too. And I'm going to go through a few more. Nice, thank you. The actual hoe. And, well, there it is. That guy is pretty old. Hasn't changed really at all. And, well, thank you very much. The rake. So I just really appreciate the fact that we don't need to reinvent things. We can take what's already in existence and put it to use. And indeed, that's what we have done. And so, how about this pressure cooker? For those who came a little later, I did borrow this from Breck History today. And it is 1920s. I had to sign it out just so they make sure to get it back. I'm going to make sure they get it back. Has that changed very much? I missed grabbing my own pressure cooker this morning. It looks a little different.
They started putting worse components on the new ones. Like it might break a little early.
Yeah, right. If you didn't hear that. These were built to last, as were many of the tools, our predecessor tools. And today's kind of may break down a little sooner. Is that about right? Yeah. I mean, mine has a rubber gasket. That doesn't really fit as well anymore. And there's a little like let the steam out button. It's plastic. Yeah, right. So I think this is great. And these tools up here for you to check out when we're concluded. What would you put in a pressure cooker? How about a potato? Anybody want a potato? No? I grew up in Napa, California, and we had artichokes in the backyard. Grew strawberries, and I mean the big strawberries. And while we would pick them, I don't know if that's what you call it, our faces would turn completely strawberry. So we ate them as we picked them, and Mom pressure cooked lots of sugar, and we had jam on the shelf for quite some time. So just a throwback, you don't have to yell it out, but what grew where you came from that might require a pressure cooker? Artichokes, that's another amazing one. In my backyard, I was taught that you can split it, so you end up with 4 plants, 4 stems, and our artichokes grew and grew. My family really likes artichokes. I don't know if that's in the rest of our arena at all. My uncle thinks they're just a reason to scoop or a tool to scoop mayonnaise. That's fine. My kids are big butter dippers, and I'm just a big fan in general. But that's not happening at Summit County, so we need to get creative. Well, I do go to City Market and we get artichokes. Pressure cooker. So those are some of the tools that we can use today. And I'm curious about other kinds of gardens that are not growing garden. Well, to take that back. Every garden has a component of growing within it. We've done that throughout with breathing and body posture and calming or getting ourselves ramped up if you're going on one of those excursions. But what about a fairy garden? And this might be mixed in amongst your foliage. Has anyone seen a fairy garden out and about? I mean, yeah. Your neighbor has one. Would you, maybe with a little more volume, sort of describe what does your neighbor, what do you see when you see the fairy garden?
They've got a little water feature, and they've got fairies and rocks.
Nice. I Yeah, and it could be little creatures or people or terracotta pots recreated. There's ready paint fire. I don't know if anyone has kids, grandkids, just you did it yourself and you painted a little something or other and it got fired and then you have a little clay piece of art. Start growing your fairy garden, if you will. I have a neighbor who has really didn't throw me off. I was very curious what was happening. It's night, and there's this little glow over there in the corner of the front of her house. And as I got a little closer, I went for a walk and went to find it. It was 3 mushrooms, and they were purchased somewhere, and they were lit so that they would turn on at night. And it was a curiosity, and then it drew my attention and drew me in, and now I'm in that garden space. And so I went from this curiosity energy into a different kind. And even though it was night and it was really positive. That was cool. So I've got a couple more kinds of gardens that you could consider. That light garden I just mentioned. How about a sound garden? Yeah, and that was that 1990s grunge band. And anyway, that's where I came from. I appreciate that. But I'm sure we've gone through Denver Botanic, wherever it might be. There are little speakers out and around. You could create this for yourself. A Bluetooth speaker, just kind of waterproof maybe, plugged into the side, and you can turn on your own environment. I like the idea of each of these. What are those called? Mule's ears. They're really silvery and soft. So we could have a touch garden or field garden. And a lot of this is kind of preschool arena. We're zooming out from. But the touch garden, it feels pretty nice. I went on a yoga meditative hike not too long ago through Friends of the Dillon Ranger District. They have a number of different things that are consistently happening. And so that one started at Zach Stop, and we walked up to Rainbow Lake. But part of the process was touch. By the way, stepping back, the first component was feel your toes, walk gentle, just focus on toes. We went that hula hoop kind of up the body scan. We kept kind of zooming along. At one point it was touch. And so I found myself touching the really new aspen leaves. And that was pretty excellent. And then I took the next step, because that's me, I'm campy. They're the burn piles that exist up there, the forest management, and then the piles are reduced. I just went ahead and picked up a few pieces of charcoal and did that. Don't be afraid, we're all invited to color outside of the lines. I think that's pretty important. And it was really interesting, the touch changed. So charcoal is kind of rough and crumbly. And then it became more like a pencil. What's the graphite? Like lead. But my hands suddenly became so soft. So I invite you to go out. And then she went through the 5 senses, and that was a little challenging when I got to the point of taste. So, if you take a little sap and see what's happening around there, or lick an aspen tree, that doesn't taste great. But you got to go to know. So lick an aspen tree, that's encouraged, and see what happens. Aspartame, that's kind of what comes out. It's a headache, aspirin connected there. You might have tasted an aspirin without washing it down quick enough. Give the aspen tree a try. So ultimately, here we're coming to the conclusion. I have a few add-ons, but I did put these together for all of us. I bought a can of gold spray paint, and I specifically went and found the rocks I like the best. And I'm inviting you to take a number of bits of joy, historic remembrance of the gold days, but also something that you can put in your garden that's one of those visual draw that maybe evokes a bit of positivity. And I'll tell you, I have about 12 in my garden because I had to. I'm the one that put them together, and I put them in an arc. And some are sort of hidden, and some are a little bit more forward. And it just is nice. It's just an additive to this environment that we've already created. So please, I didn't know what our audience was going to be today, so there's a few more in the bucket back there. A kickstart to that fairy garden, or the differently inviting space. So I have a few notions about herbicide. Oh, you know what? Flip my card. Veggies, things that are worth trying, and rhubarb comes up pretty high on the list. And it isn't something I prefer. I'm not a rhubarb fan. Some people really go for rhubarb pie or whatever it may be. Strawberries, but that's something. We've got these little native, low-crawling, small strawberries, currants, service berries, however. Asparagus. Anyone? I have a yes. I got a yes. It's a matter of go for it. My horticulture friend in Durango, he says he's got all these hidden spots that he won't tell anybody about for asparagus. Give it a try. It depends. Lettuce, spinach, kale, radishes, carrots, all of these lettuces and tubers, underground growers, green onions, pollinators. Well, they draw pollinators, but they're prolific and self-seeders and perennial. Had a few times I've tried to remove the onions and they're still with me. That's why they're really purple, pretty purple head when they get to the end of their life cycle. Well, you can eat them anytime, but you know, they don't taste as well. Any questions? I just went brrrr. I didn't really invite questions. Yes? Herbs. What's working for you?
I'm just beginning.
Okay.
So that's what I'm asking, and I'm concerned about it attracting wildlife.
Oh yeah, good point. We don't want to bring animals into our yards, wildlife in general. I like the position that I'm in because I don't have to be the expert. I am actually a generalist and a little bit about maybe a lot of things, but I love to lean on the rest of the group, in this case right here, or wherever else I find myself, to help come up with these answers because we're all experts in our own manner. What herbs?
I've lived in Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota most of my life. Prolific herbs. So every summer, the last 4 years I've lived here, I plant herbs in pots. And they get this big instead of this big. And I've tried bringing them inside, setting them in the kitchen window. Doesn't matter. Like my rosemary right now, the stalk is really woody. So for about the first month, it's great. My basil looks pretty good, but it doesn't get right. So that's just been my experience. Every year I try it. Every year I try to do something different. So it depends.
Nice. Give it a try.
Now they're outside. I started put them outside, then I bring the pots inside, last month. But now that it's warmer, I'm eating these.
And that's that seasonal modification, growing things early, indoors. As we get into May, June, bring them in, put them out. There's this, no, right, from Iowa. And artichokes don't grow like they did in Napa. What herbs? We didn't really answer your question. You've tried rosemary and it's gone kind of woody. You tried basil and it doesn't burst. Oh, basil's going. Excellent.
The basil, it doesn't get like this,
Mhm.
but I have enough leaves that I can use to cook with and season with. Time works okay.
Yes.
A different way to raise basil. Sometimes the supermarket will sell it from the roots.
Ah.
And I put it on my kitchen counter to loosen it.
All summer, if I could paraphrase, just for volume, purchase basil that's sprouted. Well, it's right, that's got a root. Yeah, it hasn't gone to end of life cycle where we don't want to eat it. So they've pretty well got it ready for you to grow. And you've mentioned that it grew all year round. In water, not soil. So we're doing a little hydroponics suddenly. That's excellent. Since we're sharing, where did you find it?
Kings and Castle Rock.
Okay.
But that was last year. This year I
Couldn't find it this year. Castle Rock was where that came from. And be considerate of buying plants at lower elevation. They need to harden. So altitude hardening is something that we need to keep in mind. So if you buy something in the Front Range and bring it up, maybe do that season modification approach where you put it out when the sun's out and you bring it back in and kind of help it find its feet. Any other thoughts on herbs? What was the first one? Lovage. I don't know lovage, but that's okay. And mint.
Lovage, it's like celery. I use it for seasoning soups.
Oh, nice.
There are several large plants along Main Street for shops out there.
Sure. Things to look at, things to find out. Try it. It depends.
I just didn't want to critters cause
Exactly. Critter management, this many times, or wildlife critter. If it's the little mammals, it is fencing, and so this is an exclosure. Exclosures are keeping creatures out. Enclosures, what you'd see at the zoo, keeping the creatures in. So if you were to put wire, tight mesh wire, down about 12 inches, depending on roots, it could be 18 inches, but then you want to bend the bottom portion into an L shape, exterior, or away from your garden. And that will make it difficult for burrowers to make their way in. So that's away. It's not as fluid or gentle. Take a little bit of extra approach. Of course, ground cloth. I didn't mention another modification are high tunnels, but this is a cloth that you could put over your plants, kind of like a greenhouse. Doesn't need to be hooped. The cloth can touch the plants themselves. Roll it, it'd be okay. Roll it away during the day, put it back at night, or just leave it. And that's a way to exclude creatures. And then, of course, the ungulates, the hoofed animals, that would be, I'm just saying chicken wire, but however kind, with the type of mesh that you prefer. Almost like these beautiful knitted trees all around the historic park right now. How glorious. But we can put wire up your tree trunks. Foresters would call the trunk a stem. Anyway, that's the fancy way. I don't know if that gets the exclusion of keeping critters away. So how about herbicides? There are really 4 kinds. And I'm not going to say brand names or any scientific side of things and how they break down. All things are going to break down to something eventually, hopefully inert. So we have classes. There's 4 classifications. I talked to our weed control specialist about this. And class 1, by the way, each one of these will be on the label on any packaging. So class 1, danger poison. So you're looking for that. And really, what I really wanted to do is, instead of freaking people out, and I will say this one common name, and it comes up and it's Roundup. People hear Roundup and it's stay away, danger poison. So the correlation I'm going to do right now is things will break down into something eventually, hopefully before it gets to water. The danger poison zone is analogous to gasoline or strong solvents like paint thinner or antifreeze. So I'm just saying these correlations because we have a lot of these products, classifications 1, 2, 3, 4 of herbicides already in use in our households, one way or another. Antifreeze. Now, nobody's going to drink antifreeze or pour it on their garden, but just to point out that to say something like Roundup isn't immediately evil, bad, get rid of it. It's like other things we use, and we have to keep that into consideration. And a lot of this also is the matter of amount. And so if you're going to ingest, say you ingested a very little bit of mouthwash, you're going to be just fine. And hopefully your breath smells a lot better. But if you ingest a quantity of mouthwash, you're going to get sick. So this is about volume and the ingestion amount, or the application amount. So class 2, just plain old danger. And danger is the potential for severe irritation or harm. By the way, danger poison is severe harm. So now we're headed toward severe irritation. Still not so great, but what is in our households already that's in the danger arena? Bleach, ammonia. These are cleaning tools or items that we have. Maybe you wear rubber gloves when you're using bleach. Maybe you don't. I've painted without using gloves, and I've got paint all over me, and that's probably not great for me. And it's probably in the danger category. So it's just observational. Keep these things in mind. Bleach, ammonia, certain paints or varnishes, battery acid, bad news. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that. How about the third? Class 3 is warning. And these should be on your herbicides. So what's under warning? Some disinfectant sprays, mouthwash, hand sanitizer, things with high alcohol content, toilet bowl cleaner. So these are all in the warning classification. I mean, I don't know if everybody gets their personal protective equipment on when they go clean the bathroom. I don't. So this is a matter of exposure and how much you're taking on. And then class 4 is caution, and that's like toothpaste or baking soda, soap or dishwashing liquid, furniture, or floor polishes. We may not think about the danger application in relation to things that are already in our home because we're focusing on the living things, our garden, and we have preconceived notions as well. So just be sure to stay informed about what it is you're choosing to use rather than just jumping to conclusions. That's something I'd like to bring up. All right, a few things I have on the table. Showed the tools. I do have for sale, CSU Extension Office works with the Middle Park Conservation District, and seeds, grass seed, whatever kinds of seed. What I have with me today are wildflower seed. And the breakdown, I'm gonna just pull this out real quick. So I have half a pound bag and the full pound. So this is $20, not inexpensive. So a full pound is $40, just duplicative. What is in it? So this mature variety, Buffalo Brown Mountain Wildflower Mix, is, well, I'm just going to get right down to the weed content, which is pretty important to know when you're buying seed. How much weed are you actually buying, weed seed? Because you don't want that kind. And so this has gone through, it also comes out of the Denver Botanic, Plant Select, CSU Trial Gardens. These products are from all of that. They're 0.03% of weed seed in this bag. I didn't say that right. 0.03? That's not hundredths. Thank you. Right. So pretty concentrated of what we're looking for. And Siberian wallflower, poppy, baby's breath, flax, black-eyed Susan, coneflower. Really great mix. Rocky Mountain bee plant. I hope that's good for the bees. All right. So I don't have any way to sell this to you other than cash if you choose. Although the extension office, well, it's Middle Park Conservation District. Really, it's a credit card at their website, and then you can acquire the seeds from my office. It's just at the county commons. I mentioned that I talked to the weed guys, and these are free if you want to take a weed guide. I invite everyone to take a sparkle of joy for your garden, and we're reaching conclusion. This is my last sentiment. I would like you to take a flyer. The QR code is for the Green School at CSU. That's my story. If anyone wants a piece of it, you're welcome to have it. And thanks so much for coming and talking with me.